Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Question Your Perception Reality 2.0. This is Matthew Taylor of Carbon County Cop Block.
I am Scott Marshall of the Oath Accountability Project.
And I'm Bill Godin
of the Kanye West / Hannah Montana fan club. So, yeah, he's not going to like that I said that. While we go ahead and get ourselves started up here, we're going to go ahead and share some of these videos or this video off to a couple different places. While that's happening, guys, you have anything fun and cool that happened to you this week?
No, nothing at all.
No.
Very boring week.
No, nothing really to talk about here.
Wow, you guys are just
full
of the liveliness here tonight.
You know that I did see quite a bit of police this weekend, but didn't really have any contact. Well, we did a little bit earlier, but that was just because that guy was being a douchebag.
Yeah, he really was.
We're at the Allentown Fair, and we see a gate that is open about 3 feet wide. It's got a chain thing around the top of it, but that's like 7 feet up, and there's a gap in the gate, and there's a clear pathway to it, all the way down to it. Thanks, Bill. And we go to walk out of it, and this fucking cop is like, "No, you got to walk around." Like, we had to walk all the way around. Like, why? It's not like I went through a turnstile to get in here, so they're keeping count on us. No, it was just stupid. He was just like trying to flex his authority because he was bored and somebody gave him a little bit.
Well, what was great too is that there was this EMS lady just sitting there underneath a tent in her fold out chair, just like, you can't come this way because this is the way the ambulances get in and out. It's like, but the gate over there is chained shut, but it's big enough for people to walk in and out, but you're
not
sure
so much for an ambulance.
Yeah, ambulance, not so much. And I was like, and she's like, we're doing this for public safety. I was like, but what if my car's right on the other side of that gate and I need to get there for my medication? And she's like, so I was like, yeah, you're really protecting and serving. I thank them for that, by the way. And then funny enough, we questioned the Reddit cop on the way out. We're like, hey, so do you get paid for this job? He's like, yeah. And the other guy who was with us was like, oh, I guess that means you don't really have any skills. And I was like, you should try McDonald's. I bet you they pay you better. So anyways.
It's just this stupid gatekeeper troll guy. Like, he did nothing better to do but to tell us. I mean, I should have just kept walking and walked right through it. What's he gonna do? Arrest me for fucking leaving through a gate? Like,
he might have detained you, but I don't know about arresting.
It's like, well, we paid to get in, but there was no signage saying that we could not go that way.
Oh.
So at that point, it would have been more like, how about you just fuck off? You rent a cop. We're gonna leave this way.
So they're just directing traffic and.
Well, no, it wasn't even there. Wasn't even the gate was closed. There was no traffic.
Your traffic. Traffic.
No, basically,
they had their own cordoned off little area.
Yeah, they're like, this is our safe zone. This is our safe zone. You can't come in here. This is ours. We claimed it. You guys can't come this way. Go that way. It's like
unlike Colorado schools, of course.
Yeah, unlike the one Colorado school. Speaking of schools, so starting tomorrow, I think that would be officially all kids are going to be back in school in this area. Yeah. Which leads us to the topic we really wanted to get into tonight, which I think you can kind of explain a little bit more.
Well, since there's a lot of kids that are going back to school, and some kids have already started school in some places, but usually after Labor Day, pretty much kids everywhere in school. And we just wanted to talk about some of the issues that come with kids like sending your own kids to school, and some of the issues with the system itself, because it's just
there are a lot of issues.
Yeah, it's pretty big, and I mean, shit, we could go a million different ways with this because it's just so much.
Why don't we start off with the young kids that are being okay, I understand that there's a choice I don't think there's a choice personally, but I understand that people feel there's a choice in vaccinating their children. And now they all over the country, Pennsylvania not being one of them, but all over the country there are mandatory vaccinations that you must give to your children before they can enter certain grades.
When I was in school, I had to down in Virginia, before I could go to middle school, they had to give me like a hepatitis C vaccine.
Yeah.
Like It's just crazy.
Which you know what? I really wonder, like, how many kids at the age of 6 or 7 are really going to be passing hepatitis
at risk of Hep C.
Yeah, it's like, granted, I understand that teachers are starting to have sexual relationships with younger and younger students these days, but
now.
Yeah, but I mean, was that one of those problems that they were going to start, trying to fix before it became one, or, but that's just there's a line of different vaccinations. I mean, as we all know, I just had a little one last week, and just looking at
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yes. Just looking at how many vaccinations are really required for him, or not required, but suggested to give him in the first year alone is insane.
Staggering.
Yeah, I mean,
I've gone through it.
It's like around 64 different vaccinations that they want to give this child in the first year of their life. And to turn around and say that they have 100% made sure that every one of these 64 vaccinations do not have a negative effect when mixed with other vaccinations is something we all know they haven't done well enough. And, I'm not going to go into whether I think, vaccinations give autism or not, because that's not really where we're going in this topic.
I mean, depending on who you ask, I mean, Robert De Niro would say that. I mean, there's a few doctors.
I don't think Robert De Niro is a doctor.
Well, yeah, but
he might have played one on a movie, yeah.
But this is one of the reasons why I just won't even go into that realm of having a kid, because there's so many choices that you have to make, and it's just for me. When you have a kid in this country, you have so little freedom of what you can do with your own kid. Like, to vaccinations, to getting them certified by the government, to, sending them to school, and just, there's so much that it's just.
Hey, that was me. I'm sorry. I'm just checking out. For everybody who is watching, just letting you know that we will have our feed open for live Q&A. If there's any sort of questions you guys want to ask or anything, it'll be up and open. If there's a topic you would like us to touch on, by all means, drop it inside of this live feed here, and we will attempt to get to it as quickly as possible. But yeah, sorry about that. That's why you heard my voice in the background while I was talking. Anyway, Scott, back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can go into how special districts, how when you have a school, you have a public school, then you have a governing body, which is usually made up of a few school people and then a few community members, and you have a school board. Now, this is a special district, and these people actually, at the very lowest level of government, I believe, have some of the biggest tax effects on your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Because depending on the school district that you live in, these people can decide if you're paying taxes for a bigger school, if you're paying taxes for better teachers or better buses, or if you're going to pay taxes to some engineer that's going to sit there and design a school for a couple of years, pay them millions of dollars for them to design you a terrible school, which is such as the situation around here. You just have you have these people, and they're so ingrained in the community. Even when you have such a community effort to oust, people that you don't like on the board, they have all these magic tricks up their sleeves with all these different rules and exceptions and all kinds of crazy stuff that even if you vote in the people that you want, they can pull some crazy stuff like they did around here and end up with the same board that lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, they can make their same they can go through with their same terrible decision they've been trying to push through for a couple years now.
When you have your hands on that much money, it all does come back to the money. When you have your hands on that much money, you're not going to let go that easy.
Right.
So you're going to get into a position where those rules, those exceptions, they're going to favor you. That's what you see. Like you said, though, it's just like government. It is a little government is what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the same thing with the bigger you get, it's the same thing. They don't want to let go of the money. You put somebody in charge of money, it goes right to their head.
Well, especially how much power they give school boards.
Oh,
it is disgusting.
I could be messing a little bit up here, but there's this guy locally here. His name's Frank Tambori. And Frank had his house misassessed. Like there was an error in the assessment, and it was assessed for way more than what it was worth. Well, he got them to come in and fix the assessment. And the school board decided to sue him because he got a proper assessment of his house and pays them less money.
Mm-hmm.
How the
That's the actual lawsuit?
Yeah. That's
oh yeah.
I could be fucking that, but I'm pretty sure that's how I heard it. And it's like either way, it was a pretty atrocious story. The guy reassesses his house, and now he's got to fight. He's got to pay lawyers to fight this erroneous lawsuit from these people. Like,
well, again, then you look at them. You just look at the money aspect.
Yeah,
These
well,
guys don't want to...
and I guess if you look at it from it'll be cheaper to settle, and then cheaper to keep paying, more than what his house is worth. But him being a man of principle, and I would be too, I'd say, fuck that.
No, absolutely. I mean, we in the last year or so, or a little bit more now, have been sent to various different school board meetings, township meetings, counselor meetings, all these different things. And we have had some really interesting stories and some really interesting bills that they have attempted to pass or just ordinances that they've attempted to pass. I know Bowmanstown, which is just down the street from us. I was there at one point, and they were talking about how they needed to raise upwards of $1 million to fix all of their dikes that run across the Lehigh River that runs by, because they were afraid that Bowmanstown might flood. But Bowmanstown, as the town itself, sits 147 feet above the level of the river, and it hasn't flooded in almost 200 years. So
massive danger, I see.
Yeah. So you're sitting there like, wait a second, you need to raise $1 million from the people of your town, which is less than 10,000 people total. You need to raise $1 million from them so you can turn around and fix the dams the dikes that run across
the levees.
The levees. Yeah.
The only logical argument there, and it's somewhat logical, is
somebody got to name it.
No.
How is it that they can't get a grant for that?
No. Is that an issue with insurances? Are insurances claiming it's a flood zone? You fix that. You put the dikes in, and you lower insurances.
I think just for political correctness, we should call them levees.
Levees. Yeah, maybe dikes is gonna get us a little.
No, we're spelling it totally different.
Yeah.
It's the DIKES.
Yeah, we're saying it the same way. But anyways, this is the back to school episode, so let's get back to school. So we were talking a little bit about vaccines, but another thing I really, really want to get into is let's jump up to those guys and gals who have gone back to college. And you are going in, you're paying for higher learning right now. And to all of you, if you think you need a safe space and you're in college, my one suggestion to you is
grow the fuck up.
Either grow the fuck up or go the fuck home, because you're not getting your college experience at all.
And if you're one of those really, really just bright star students that decided to go to the University of Texas and then decided that you didn't like guns, where the fuck did you think you were going to school at?
Yeah.
Go to fucking Rhode Island or something if you want to.
Ohio, yeah.
Just go somewhere over there. Don't go to fucking Texas.
Somewhere where
like guns.
Somewhere where people aren't born with a Glock in their hand. It's just honestly, I know over the last, I would say probably 12 years, there's been a really big push in, getting rid of bullying in schools and, just bullying in general, cyberbullying, all this.
Some people need to be bullied.
I completely agree.
Not totally.
Is that like Darwin's unwritten rule, or?
I mean, not like totally to the point where they're going to kill themselves, but sometimes,
character building.
I mean, when you see kids like, you know, giving each other a hard time and stuff, that's almost the same as when you see like lion cubs playing and rolling around. And I mean, kids give each other hard times, and it's good to develop those coping skills so that kids can understand how to better assert themselves, or just, you know, be quick-witted. You don't want a kid with a slow wit, and by protecting and coddling them, they're not building any of that witty skill that you need to fucking, you know, zing somebody.
You're right, they're not, but they are learning the quick coping mechanism of going to a higher authority.
Yep.
Which maybe what the government's trying to do.
Well, I mean, I would absolutely say so, because I mean, the thing is, if you turn around and rely on somebody else your whole life to protect you, that's how you think everything's supposed to be. Everybody's supposed to protect you and make it so that you are responsible for your own protection. And I don't know how many times I've been just chewed out and called an asshole and everything online, because I'm like, dude, you're responsible for your own protection. Nobody's gonna protect you. Not even the police have they don't even have a actual responsibility to protect you.
Right.
There's not an actual requirement. I mean, look up the Supreme Court cases. So nobody is going to protect you. You have to do that yourself.
Well, I also think about the fact of growing up, I was a fat kid. I mean, there's no way around it. I was a chunky little child. And, you know, I think I would be a completely different person and unable to handle just everything as life progresses if I wasn't, you know, called a fat ass here and there when I was a kid. Because you know what? That allowed me to have the ability to roll off the stupid shit. Because nowadays, somebody says something I don't like, it's like, oh, well, they're an asshole. Who cares? You know, but these kids, if you're like, hey, Bobby, you're a fat ass, and somebody comes over, it's like, you can't call him fat. He has a glandular problem, and he might be big boned.
He has a glandular problem.
And he comes from a long line of husky people, but we can't say husky. They're just kind of large. And by the end of the day, you know, Bobby doesn't want to make himself feel better or better himself and lose weight. Bobby's just like, everybody else sucks and I'm okay.
Greg Giraldo had a really good bit that kids nowadays are so protected that, like, and all the kids have a sickness. So they like when back in the day, if you had asthma, kids beat the shit out of you because it was different. Yeah. Now if you don't have any ailments, they all pick on you. Look at the nose breather.
Like, he can breathe and run and do all that, and he can do everything because he's healthy. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, right.
But I mean,
rest in peace, Greg Giraldo.
But you know, also just remembering, you know, especially when Scott and I were kids, every single kid, and even now they've continued, but every single kid was a little hyper, and holy shit, they had ADD. Let's put them on so much medication.
When I was in school,
overbuild.
When I was in school, I'm not really proud of this, but I pretended to have some learning disabilities so that I could, you know, take tests in the hall and not with, you know, have a little bit of, you know, leeway. And you know, kids these days, they know how to play the system just as.
I mean,
just as much.
I played the system. Yeah. I was a goody two shoes. I used to.
Were you? We would have had no idea. Right?
I once told my teacher I had a heart condition, so I could go to lunch early.
And we found the second fat kid in the room.
Were you?
Actually, no. I was the 4'11", 96-pound weakling.
Were you the kid that
he wanted to keep his lunch?
That convinced his gym teacher that he had a sweat allergy, so that he didn't have to do anything.
I did like gym, so no, that wasn't me.
But I really see this just being detrimental to the growth of children these days. Because, yeah, don't get me wrong, regardless, kids are still going to do it. They're going to find a way to do it, and we should not be turning around and saying, yeah, you know what, go call Bobby a fat ass because it's going to help him grow. But
let's kind of talk about the other side of this. And being a kid these days has got to be so much fucking harder, because, like, when you leave school and you go home, like, it follows you. The kids now have social media and Facebook. Like, you get on the Facebook, and then you got kids picking on you on there too, and it's like, I mean, I understand
it's AIM and you could log out and that was
I understand it. It's hard for kids, but
we didn't even have that.
But the thing is,
you were sending mail both ways up the hill in the snow.
Like, while you can protect a kid in reality and in real life, you can't protect a kid online. Like, no, you can't. So if you just
try to insulate them, I mean, I think that does even more harm.
I mean, and you could even teach your kid to, like, you know, do counter-bullying tactics. Like, anytime anybody, like, you know, as an adult, you get little quips here. But, you know, like, if somebody calls you gay and you get all defensive about it, it's going to get worse.
Oh, my God, does it get worse? There's no way around that. But, I mean, back when we were kids, we had 3 choices. Take it, figure out something smarter to say, or just say that stupid sticks and stones bullshit. Now, granted, 2 of those just don't work. You know, take it, and it's just going to get worse. Sticks and stones are going to think you're retarded and just be like, oh, yeah, he's a good mark. But if you quit back and you have the ability
to prison style.
I stabbing a guy with a pencil in the arm.
Yeah, wham. Like respect. Throw some respect on my name. But anyways,
next time I kill you.
If the kids had the, you know, kids are they're growing and they're learning, and if you give them the ability to learn to defend themselves verbally, then you know they're growing as people, because then you get to the point where you're adults like us and you're at a bar and some drunk person's like, hey, fuck you. You know why? Because you've got long hair and I don't like it because you're a faggot. And what do you say? You're like, well, guess what?
Pretty good drunk guy.
Like, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Why don't you go earn your chip for the 3rd time and get the fuck out of my face? Why? Because we have gone through enough shit in life that we know that instead of just, I'm offended, somebody kick him out of the bar, I gotta cry and go to my safe space. We're like, nah, fuck this dude. He's got it worse than me.
Or you could just go outside and grab the bat that's in your car and hit him.
Yeah. You just come back and you're just like, tire iron. Say it again. Problem solved.
They tend not to do that.
But I mean, when it comes to, I mean, granted, we are sitting here as probably the worst set of people to be saying this, because right now any kids watching is like, so to solve my problem, I either stab them or just beat the shit out of them with a tire iron.
Well, see, there's also like a confidence and like a self-esteem thing that comes with, you know, just really shutting somebody down really good. And if you don't teach your kids that, they'll never know that satisfaction of just putting somebody in their fucking place.
It's like, let me tell you about you.
I wish I had that self-esteem when I was actually in school.
Oh, yeah.
Because now, I look back and say, man, I would have shut some people up.
Can I tell you that I kind of wish I had a little bit less when I was in school, though, just for the sole fact of nobody was safe. Teachers was getting it. I mean, I had this assistant principal. Her name was Judy Turner. Now, anybody on my friends list who went to school with me instantly just got a chuckle because they know the war I went through with this woman. I mean, it was to the point where I'd walk in and be like, listen, you little troll doll bitch, like you just kicked me out again. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't want to be here. You look like a troll. I fucking hate you. Kick me out. Or just, yeah. I mean, it was to the point where it's like, I knew I could go home and play some video games or sit in school and be really, really bored. So it'd be like, oh, I'm back from my mini vacation. And they would be like, did you learn anything? I learned you're still a bitch. Like, I'm 5 more days out. It's like, yes, I can finish Resident Evil.
Well, it's all about goals.
It is.
Suspension is not a punishment. That's get the fuck out of here.
No,
and I need to spend some time away from you.
Yeah. Out of school suspension was I think the start of safe spaces for the staff. Yeah, they're like, get this kid out of here. We can't expel them. And in school is just. In school was like prison, okay? You're taking all the bad kids, you're putting them in one classroom, and what are they doing? It's like, yo, you know how I pissed off Mrs. Brown today? Like, you should try this. You sit there and you make sure that you hide everything on the front of the board when she walks out the room to give attendance. Why? Because when she comes back, she basically has an aneurysm, and you can see the fucking vein in her forehead. And that's the kind of shit that got shared.
You know what? You're not that far off too, because I was the kid that they sent to actually get the lunch orders, and I walked in there thinking I was going into a prison setting. I was like, wow, what did he do?
I was in a class one time, and this kid, his name was Ryan Donovan, and
that's a fucker name.
Yeah, he's a fucker. I can't remember the teacher's name, but she was this really tiny Asian lady, and he made her so upset. This is our first year teacher, so upset that she started crying and left the classroom. Just left and went to the teacher's lounge or something. And we're all sitting there like, okay, so what now? Like,
it's like, so do we want to learn about?
She had one of those episodes every year.
It's like, so ladies, tits or get out? No, it's like,
all right. But so
yeah, back to getting school. Way back on point.
All right. So one of my huge issues is we have this thing called government. And in my opinion, the government is doing everything that they can at this point to scrounge up more power and more support. And just there's this really efficient machine to just garner support and all kinds of stuff just to try to, keep this government going. So it's just amazing to me that how we're now expected to send our kids to school for how is it like 6 hours a day?
7, 8, I don't know.
6. It turns
let's
out
take
that
the little one upstairs who's going to school. He's going to be leaving at 7:30 in the morning, getting back at 3:00 or 3:30 in the afternoon. So that's about 8 hours. 7.5 hours. Yeah.
Some math later.
I see what your favorite subject was.
Yeah, so some math later. At some point, unless if every day after school, you're spending, equal amount of time with this kid of yours, you're actually your kid is spending more time around strangers that you barely know, getting all their ideas and all their information from these people that the government tells them what to put in your kids' heads. Like that's
absolutely
what's a scary thing is starting this year, kids in school, seniors in school nowadays, this is the first year that no one in school except for those kids who got held back were alive for 9/11. So now 9/11 is being taught as a history out of books as opposed to people who are actually alive and have done their research over the last 15 years.
Thanks for ruining the mood, dude.
Oh wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, so right here now starts the brainwashing, the spin, because I mean, you sit back and you think about World War II, and we know what we've been told happened because we won the war.
Right.
So I'm sure the narrative of everything that happened was a lot different.
Well, it's not it's not the study of what actually happened. It's the study of his story, history, right. His story. It's
and the story's always told by the victor.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You're not going to hear the story from the people that got demolished,
right? Why? That's not a good story.
I mean, I don't know if that really transfers in this.
I think
no, but it's scary because think about it like this. Okay, so I'll have a little one who's going into school and have one who's upstairs now in school, and part of the biggest battle as a parent is not only trying to guide your child to have the best experience in life, but also trying to instill knowledge upon them. And a lot of times you're having the schools teaching them things that you would never want them to learn because it's fundamentally wrong. I mean, all the way down to let's talk about how they're teaching kids math nowadays, Common Core math. That's just teaching kids how to be retarded. That's taking kids who are a blank slate and going, listen, this is how it's done. This plus this or this times this equals this, and going, let's make it really fucking difficult so it's really hard to understand. But once you get our system, maybe you might understand it, but you're probably not going to. And when you get out into the real world, everyone's going to be like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Why don't we teach you how to do math now?
But the sad thing is I'm hearing adults, parents, actually some parents are actually on board with this. I got into a discussion with a parent not more than a couple months ago. He's on board with Common Core. You just have to know how they're doing it. That was his
here's my question though. Is this the kind of person who's like 8 times 9 equals brown?
You know what? I wanted to ask him that, but he's actually a quite intelligent person. Computer IT guy.
You would hope that he understands math, being an IT guy.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, just as far as what they're teaching kids, I came across something earlier today that I found that made me pretty uncomfortable. it was a post where the Allentown Police Department had gone to one of the schools in Allentown, and they have this little program, which is the Allentown Police Youth Academy.
Oh.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there a program similar to this around the time that Nazi Germany was really coming to fruition?
Yeah.
Now, what was that called? The Hitler Youth?
Yeah.
Okay, so Allentown Police Youth Academy, Hitler Youth.
It's similar.
Yeah.
The name.
I mean, even they give them little hats to wear, and this is. I wish that there was some way that I could show this without having to. But this is a student in a classroom decked out in completely like. I'll show it to you.
Gear.
Yeah,
he's wearing SWAT gear. This guy's wearing like a medic kit, and he's got the whole. He's got bulletproof armor. This is a grade school kid. Okay, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not. I'm just trying to show you. This is a grade school kid.
But he looks pleased, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks so super happy, and you know what he's going to grow up? He's going to grow up thinking, this time those cool cops came and they showed us their police dog. I mean, there's a picture on here of a cop with a police dog, and the police dog looks like it's in full attack mode.
Yep.
It's wearing a harness, and it is up on its hind legs, mouth wide open like this, like lurching at somebody, and he is in a full seated back position holding this leash. And it's like, I'm only assuming that this police dog is lunging at these children, and he's it's
like, I'm protecting you.
Look at this guy is in a pretty squatted back position. I don't see how that could be safe. What if
Dog got loose and mauled the shit out of all those children?
Kids,
well, having seen these before, an actual live demonstration like this, I would actually assume that dog is actually chasing another officer.
Yeah,
that's
but
usually what
it's kind of left out of this picture.
It is.
Here's this mentality though. It's almost like standing at the edge of a cliff and going, "Save your life."
Yep, save
your exactly life. What it is. It's pushing and grabbing, going up, "Save your life." It instills a little bit of fear and then showing that they got control. That's what that is. It's planting that seed of, we have control, we can protect you.
But they're doing it in a way where they're having the kids actually accept that.
Yeah,
it's okay. Hey, these guys have control. They're here to help.
Just my question: what purpose does it serve to send a bunch of police officers to a middle school to have the middle school kids play with their equipment? I don't understand what is the purpose in this.
What was the purpose of sending officers to school going, this is what crack cocaine looks like, this is what marijuana looks like, this is heroin?
It's just
don't
all it is
touch it.
Is to start them early on a path to accepting police. Like if the police was such a good product, you wouldn't have to advertise it so heavily.
Marketing.
You wouldn't have to advertise it so heavily, especially to young kids that don't fully understand what the fuck these cops do on a daily basis.
And then what happens? These kids go home and ask their parents, and it all depends on what their parents' mindset is, because then you have some of those parents who are like, yeah, you know what? You learned good things there today. You should really respect the police and always listen to them and stuff like that. Then you have, parents who aren't complete jackasses, and they'll be like, listen, you should probably do your best to stay away from them. If you were to pay attention to anything going on in the world right now, you understand that is just a dangerous situation, and you should stay away.
I mean, just a little sidebar from our conversation. I don't think most of the American people really understand what it is that the police officers do on their day-to-day job. Most of it is riding around in an air-conditioned car, listening to the tunes, and playing on a fucking computer. Yeah, and I mean, some of their computers they can't play on, but we've seen enough pictures and videos of them playing on their computers while driving and stuff.
Or you can see those cops in Chicago who were like 12 deep, showing up to Pokestops playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah, well, and the thing is,
it was rare. It was rare. All hands on deck.
Most of a cop's job is writing traffic tickets or writing simple drug possession tickets.
Victimless crimes.
And all of these are victimless crime. I'd say, and I don't. This isn't a research fact, but I would think that most of the tickets that a police officer writes are for victimless crimes that somebody was doing something that actually didn't hurt anybody or anything. It's just something
that violates the law. It violates a law.
Yeah, it violates a law that was put there to prevent crime. And this is another thing. There is
prevent crime though.
I don't think that you can prevent crime by criminalizing more actions that could cause crime, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay. Well, you've criminalized drunk driving. Now, you shouldn't drink and drive, but their mindset is, if you drink and drive, you could wreck and hurt somebody. So we're going to make the act of drinking and driving illegal. So we're going to try to prevent this crime. And, you know, I personally, I don't think it's right, but there are a lot of people that do, and we don't want to really get into that debate right now.
Perhaps next week.
Perhaps next week. Hey, guys, I know we've got a couple people popping in and out, and we've got a couple people who have been sticking around. Once again, I've got the live chat open directly here. If there is something you want us to talk about or discuss, or if you just got a question of what we are discussing right now, drop it in the chat. We'll see it probably about 15 seconds after 15 to 30 seconds after you ask it, and we'll try to get to it. So,
and we're live on both YouTube and Facebook right now. We also have a brand new website. I'm still working on it. Kind of looks a little right now, but you can still go there and use it. It's questionyourperception.org. Sorry.
But then also, for anybody who doesn't want to watch this live because they just don't want to watch our mugs, you can also now pop on over to Google Play or the iTunes store, and you can download our podcast for free right then and there and listen to us on the go.
Yep. So if you don't want to watch our ugly mugs and you'd rather just listen, you know, that's usually how I do my podcasts. I'm a frequent listener of Joe Rogan's podcast. He's got the video. The video is great. I'm just never in a place where I can do it. So having it on Google Play just makes it so much more convenient. It automatically downloads on there. The three most recent episodes, and it gives me a notification when there's a new one, and I can just click on it and start listening. And it takes so much less data than, you know, video. But you can watch on our website. You can watch the video. You can
you leave comments and questions?
We're gonna look into. I'm pretty sure I can do that.
Okay.
But on the website, you can watch the video. You can watch the video. You can listen to the audio straight on the player on the website, or you can actually download it. You can download the raw file and, you know, do whatever you want. Chop it up, fuck with our voices. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, make us sound like Mickey Mouse the whole time. Oh, fuck cops. Oh.
But yeah, we have all these great places that you can reach us. We're going to try to get on some more odds and ends podcasting apps and different places. But I don't know how we could be more available to you guys.
Besides just coming to your front door, kicking it down, and doing our show right there in front of you.
And in the future,
in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And in the future, we're definitely we want to look into getting a call-in line set up, which I think should be super easy with this here program that we got. We just got to it's going to need more equipment like headphones and microphones so we can all hear each other and
fun stuff like that. But trust us, we've got some really cool stuff in the works, and over the next coming months, you're going to see a lot of big changes in the sense of just how much more professional this is going to appear and be.
Because realistic, this is just a startup. I mean,
and we're actually right now even in a temporary space.
Yep.
We're going to be in a new space. It's going to be nice. So please bear with us. I know we've been talking about new stuff for months.
No more Harambe on the wall.
Oh,
that's
not Harambe.
That's not even the same
species.
No,
that's a chimp. But you know what? Enough of you have commented and said I like the fact you got Harambe over your shoulder, and you know what? I'm just not even going to correct you guys. So
I will. It's not Harambe.
No, that's Bantu. Damn it.
Dicks out for Harambe.
Balls out for Bantu.
So for me, this idea that we send our kids to spend all this time with strangers. What?
I said back.
Back to school. That we send our kids to spend all this time with strangers, and these strangers, you know, they have their own morals and stuff that they're gonna try to, instill into your kids.
But they're all trying to instill this on top of a very rigid curriculum that they have to follow. And these curriculums are scary because it's not about teaching your kids real world things. It's about teaching them to be able to pass a test that gives them more funding.
That's where the whole thing is. They teach your kids what to think, not how to think.
Yep.
And if they can effectively, even starting young, because that's why they do it so young, they can effectively quell your thinking habits into, receiving your information and then blurting it back out instead of, processing it your own self and deciding, because that's basically what they teach you to do, that all knowledge comes from authority, and knowledge is the ability to take in information and repeat it back perfectly. And it's just, it's ridiculous that kids are taught how to pass tests, not how to actually learn the stuff that they need to learn.
Well, look at other countries. I think it's Sweden has basically completely gotten rid of things like homework. And in fact, part of their schooling is to take kids outside, not for recess, but to actually take them out into the woods and things like that and let them play, discover things, and learn that way. Because they find that if they're able to not only combine learning in a fun and natural way, but then also bringing them back into the classroom and then teaching them something for about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, they're much more receptive.
They're not treating it like a job either,
right,
to where you go for hours in a day, because I almost feel like school is just training you to just get on this schedule of every day, wake up in the morning, go do something that you fucking hate,
that's
and deal with it.
Doing.
Yeah, wake up every morning, go deal with something you fucking hate, and knuckle under, and just
I
go
will
with
tell
it.
you this, like, having gone through school a little bit earlier than you guys, I had several studies that I loved. I mean, I'm a big history geek. I loved history, but I had some of the best history teachers that actually made learning fun.
Well, there's nothing against the teachers, because at the end of the day, that's what they try to do. They try to get it across as best as well.
Some do. I mean,
when you tell a teacher that they have to cover this much today and this much tomorrow, and if they get behind, then they're just piling it on, and then they won't. And then you have this system that they're starting to reward teachers. They're incentivizing kids' grades for the teacher. So if the teacher gets low test scores, they're offered less money next year, and even they could be out of a job.
Well,
yeah.
Well, it's this whole thing of that you have to prove results, and that's just not how learning happens.
Everybody learns at a different way, different speed.
And you're told, it's funny because you're told that growing up. Everybody learns at a different pace. I mean, my daughter's pediatrician said that every kid learns different. They do things at a different rate. Okay, but you get into into a classroom setting, and they make it more rigid. You have to learn here at this rate, or then you're labeled. You're labeled special. You're labeled excellent, or whatever they do, the special classes.
College prep.
Sure, college prep. Yeah, and
here's my question: isn't every fucking class that you're in like preparation for either college or the real world?
Absolutely.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, it should be.
You shouldn't have this whole line. It's like college prep. It's like these kids we expect to go to college. You guys, maybe. And then you kids here, you're either special or you should go to a technical school because somebody should fix our air conditioning.
Right. And that's funny.
Because that's exactly how it is. But those are the kids who actually successfully graduate and go to do something.
They make a good buck doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the very academically excellent children who are going to these.
You guys went through some weird system where you guys are forced to go to this technical school and forced to go to these skills.
No,
I mean,
they just kind of suggest
from the way that my girlfriend, told me about it, is you don't have you have an option on these different trades that you can learn about, but when I was in school, they didn't send me into a classroom with a cop and teach me cop-like stuff for a semester. No, they do things weird here. I guess everything's weird to people that aren't from here. But I mean, just coming from Virginia, just some of the way that these bureaucratic systems work here is just
in the secondary schools. They do try to separate the higher learnings and then the trades.
Well,
you had my question to you guys. Is there a point for kids? Like, is there an actual set point for kids to be going to college these days? Like, is it bettering their lives or is it making it worse?
When I decided that when I was a freshman in high school, that college was not going to be a path that I was going to take. It was just not, a higher education was not something that interested me. I mean, it kind of interests me now, but still, like, thinking about could I go back, would I go to college? No, I wouldn't go back.
It's not worth it.
No, I wouldn't go to college. Like, I used to think back and be like, man, I wish I went to college, but now I look and I'm like,
I think you're made to think that. You're made to think,
oh yeah,
wow, I need to go to college. I need to get better. I need to learn more. It's ingrained in you.
Oh yeah, that college is the only way that you're ever going to make anything of yourself. It's the way out of poverty.
Well,
it's the way into poverty. It's the first
look at
step.
Things like this, okay? Like, we just discussed the fact of kids in trade school, and then they either go into the workforce or they go to a school like DeVry, and not that I'm promoting DeVry, fuck you DeVry, but they go to a school like that, a trade college, and in a year and a half, 2 years, they're out in the workforce starting off making $25-$30 an hour. Cool. All right. And they learned a trade, which is something that you're not going to see out. It's a skill. You can't outsource a skill. They're not going to outsource,
HVAC work. It's something you have to go there and do that.
Right. But then I look at somebody like my sister, who, love her to death, but she's got a master's degree, went to 2 separate colleges to get this, spent enough time, almost 8 years in college, and she doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. Because, granted, it's all about the choice of what you major in. But at the end of the day, she, like many other kids and adults,
coming out of school, overqualified and underexperienced.
Exactly. Basically, there's this long running joke of, only thing you're qualified for after going to college for a political science degree is to ask or to tell everybody what it's like to move back home after college. But realistically, this is what it's becoming for almost every kid coming out of college, because what job is there available when they're overqualified and underexperienced? And at least when it comes to a trade school, they learn this trade and they're certified, which means they have that experience. They have that ability to go, listen, I've got my certification. I can do this job because I passed the tests to do it. But there is no test, to sit there and say, I tested that I'm certified to be a costume designer or a fashion designer. There's no test out there to say, I am a historian. There's no really test like that. It is legitimately just, once you have that degree, okay, you have a certificate that says you have it, but it holds about as much weight as it does itself.
Right.
Now, sorry to take this another direction, but I think we really should cover this before we end. What is it with criminalizing children's behavior? I'm seeing increasingly more stories every year that there are now laws against being a disruption in class. So now you take this kid who's a little bit jumpy and his parents want to put him on
Ritalin, on
prescription speed.
I would have been so fucked if I was a kid these days.
On prescription speed, and now he's he's super focused in, but all that shit never made me want to do is talk. So you got this kid who's already like, oh man, I'm a fucked up person. I got to take medicine every day just so I can learn. Fuck. And then now he has to watch his ass, because even, acting like a kid in school, even if you're a little rambunctious, now they can charge your kid, take your kid out of class, put him in juvie, give him a charge. So, you're further disrupting his education. And now he has a criminal record because he couldn't sit still in class.
Or like, look at when I was a kid. Okay. I was on medication too. And, I went from right when I was going into high school, you went from standard schooling, 8 blocks a day, to block scheduling where you had 90-minute blocks. And I was on medication that really made me focus. So within 15-20 minutes of that class starting, I had read what everybody was going to read for the day. I had done my work. I had jack shit to do. So I would act out because I'm bored. You know, and
mean,
there's an hour left in the class, and I'm bored. Everybody else is still sitting there just droning along. I'm done.
That was basically my experience. So I had super high standardized test score. In Virginia, we had the Standards of Learning test, or the SOL, or the your shit out of luck test. That's what it was called, the SOL test. And you got to get ready for the SOLs. Got to get ready. I scored advanced on most of my SOLs going through school, but I barely passed any of my classes. And that's because I could absorb the information really quickly, get a sense of it, and then be fucking bored. I'd go roam the halls, go fucking fuck off, go steal lunch trays,
Drop acid,
and ride them down the.
I'm not even fucking with you. Drop acid.
Down
I
the
was
stairs.
Ride them down the stairs.
Drink a bunch of cough medicine on the way to school. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it was just crazy.
I mean, when it came down to it, you were just, I look back at the things I did in high school too and go,
oh man, I would
shit,
be in juvie so fast
nowadays, right? I used to show up to school with a Gatorade bottle that I would throw about yay much Gatorade, a little bit of food coloring, and the rest was vodka.
I mean, besides
every morning like clockwork.
But besides going home at the end of the day, how is school different from jail or prison? How is it different?
Not.
But see, I think I was on the other end of that spectrum. I don't know this block scheduling. I don't even know the term. I barely know the term.
Basically, look at it as educating kids the same stupid ass way as trying to implement something like Common Core math. Instead of turning around and having a bunch of different breaks with a bunch of different subjects, they turned around and you had 4 subjects throughout the day, and it was 90-minute blocks. So they tried to cram as much shit in that 90 minutes as possible.
I had it where it was, you had that break every 42 minutes. 42 minutes, change subjects.
Ours was an hour and a half and next subject, and it was just...
from the sounds of it, you guys would have been great in my class.
Yeah, it did give us enough time to get bored. Right. Like middle school.
At 38 minutes, I was a little bored, but I only had 4 minutes to go.
I was still a shit in middle school, but at the same time, my grades were substantially higher for the sole fact of I didn't have as much time to be bored. Because by the time it was at the point where I started to want to act out, I had to get my ass up and go next class.
I was so bored that with one of my classes with a teacher I really fucking hated, I tried to see how little work I could do and still pass that class. And turns out, remarkably, fucking none. Fucking none. I didn't do any work in that class. And I guess that teacher just saw that I passed the SOL, and she's like, fuck it. He knows he's got it. They'd sit there and they'd pass out shit, and she'd hand one to me, and I just whoosh, right off into the floor. I don't give a fuck about your stupid paper.
But yeah, you graduated on time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And see, this is the problem. And this is the problem, because it has become even easier for children to pass when they just don't give a fuck.
But I don't understand. I just don't understand why they would change a system that obviously worked for me.
Well,
why change it?
It's the federal government said we want more of an influence on what kids are learning. So they implement these standards tests, and the school only gets a certain amount of funding for a certain percentile of passing it. So they've incentivized these schools to teach what the federal government wants your kid to learn.
I mean, would that really affect their scheduling? I mean, the 90
Well, I mean, look at it this way.
The school, like they all do it different.
I mean, we had 209 out of 212 people who graduate out of my class. 209 out of 212. That's a real good percentage.
Yeah, I went to a school. It was like 40% of us graduated.
Okay, and so, I mean, I think the scheduling works fine. Speaks for itself. Well, why change?
Well, imagine in a community where you have a very divided debate on whether or not you need a new school or not. I grew up in one of these communities.
We did too. I actually did too.
And I went to when I started going to school, the school had been open for 1 year before me. So it was a brand new school. And the thing is, it was really hard to fail and not graduate. It was just really hard to do that because they needed to justify that this new school was better for learning and justify the huge price tag. I mean, our school was massive. I think they said it was cost like close to $1 billion to build. I mean, there were 4 huge computer labs.
But you were in Richmond, Virginia.
Big auditorium. Like, I grew up in, I went to school in Richville. The way they drew the lines, they got a little bit of they got a little bit of like lower middle class area, and then the rest was upper middle class. So like you had just this little pocket of lower middle class, and then a bunch of rich kids walking around. But you know, it was really hard because they had to justify this, so they make their numbers look good. Like, there's that class that I didn't do any work for. There's really no way that I passed that class because I needed a B+ on the exam, the final exam, to pass it. But I just, you know, if you had your exam done before lunch, and you know the way they had it set up, when you got out of lunch, you could go home.
Oh,
so
man.
I just, you know, A B B B B B. I got my report card at the end of the, you know, a couple weeks after I graduated, and you know, B+.
Sounds like an incredible stroke of luck.
Yeah, incredible.
Well, much like building 7, but anyway.
But you know, at the same time too, and we haven't even touched on the fact of just what happens if instead of being a kid who is going and not, you know, you're only going to classes, now throw into the fact that, let's say you're one of these student athletes who honestly, they're supposed to have a certain grade point average to be able to pass, but sure enough, all it takes is a little pressure from coach saying, listen, I need Tommy to play this weekend. He's got to have a higher grade.
Job depends on it.
My job depends on it. And listen, it makes your job look better too. So just pad his numbers a little bit so we can all be happy. And sure enough, it happens.
I've seen it happen both ways there too. I've seen where when I was going to school, I saw that kid get that little extra bump when he needed it as far as academically. But now I've seen some instances lately where the coach will step in and say, listen, he personally will go there and help academically because he doesn't have that bump anymore. He doesn't have it.
True. But at the same time, you know, that's very few and far. It's few and far between. You take a town like, let's say, Odessa, Texas, where football is life. All right. It's not football's cool. Football's great. Football is life. You imagine what it's like being a teacher there trying to say, listen, your star quarterback didn't pass the test. He can't suit up this weekend. It doesn't happen
ever.
They can sit there and come in drunk and high and they're still playing.
Varsity Blues. I mean, it's
prime
right
example. Yeah. But I mean that's a movie compared to reality of what it really is like in these type of
think
towns.
It's pretty good.
And you know, why don't we talk about sports? Okay, sports are dangerous. Football is dangerous. There's so many studies coming out about how terrible it is to rattle your brain around that much,
especially at these ages.
And you know, like if you look at the statistics, I don't know how many kids die a year from high school football, but it's actually more than you'd think. It actually is. It's more than you'd think.
I was going to look it up, but
this is a community condoned thing. You know, you have parents out there that are, you know, going against video games and going against Pokemon and going against, you know, regular children behavior. But then you have this like community sanctioned event where it's praised to go out there and get the shit knocked out of you on the field. They pat you on the back and say, man, you can take a hit, dude. Like, fucking, why do we subject our kids to this? Then I think it's just so that we can ingrain that team mentality. So when they, you know, USA, the team mentality.
Indians. Yeah. I mean, it's the same damn thing. You know, it tries to, they focus, especially with the student athletes, a little bit more on the team itself and pride as opposed to actually learning what you're supposed to learn, so you're actually you know, qualify for said events. And I mean prime example, you know, we say football's bad, but I think honestly the worst one out there is wrestling. Wrestling is atrocious. The things that these kids got to do to make weight, you know,
that is really awful.
And just to have something like that, you know, already these kids are young, they're impressionable, they have, you know, they might have low self-esteem, and now you're turning around and you are making their weight something that they cannot do, something that they might love because they might be a half an ounce too heavy. So, or a pound or two too heavy, so they go a day or two without eating. Now they're turning around, they're making weight, but at the same time, now their body's doesn't have the nutrients it needs to have. It doesn't have the nutrients it needs to have. So when these kids go out and they're actually turning around and competing, they're getting more injured because the body's not able to heal as quickly because it doesn't have the nutrients, because these kids sat there and starved themselves so they could make weight.
And the long-term health effects from doing that.
Oh, especially
I do have a friend of mine who is messed up for the rest of his life. He has stomach issues. I mean, and I've railed about it for years, and
well, this is something that Joe Rogan even talks about on his podcast when he's talking about the MMA fighters, that this ridiculous idea of making weight is so dangerous and so unhealthy, especially for kids that are in this part of this point in their life where their bodies are changing and their body chemistry is adjusting to how they're going to be for the rest of their lives. So you start throwing in these like odd habits and stuff. It's going to be ingrained in their systems, for especially these kids that do it for years and years and years. And it's just...
Sorry, I was waving it. You know, I think it's kind of cool that somebody who just popped in, I'm not going to say their name, but somebody who just popped into the live broadcast here is actually a teacher themselves. And I would, you know, we have been discussing some of the things that bother us with schooling, you know, not only to the fact of, you know, having to, you know, teach kids to curriculums and stuff like that. And I kind of really wish you would pop your mindset in here and kind of give us a little rundown on your thoughts on it as well, just because you have the inside track here. You know, I mean,
it's just in my idea, sports, for one, they're not constructive to anything except building a team mentality. I mean, some kids, they do get in shape and they stay in shape, and that's great. That's great for, like, you know, track and field sports. Those are pretty good sports.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't think. Another one is cheerleading. Now that one's really fucked up.
Yeah,
it's not even a sport.
They won't call it a sport,
right,
because if they do call it a sport, then it's subject to so much harsher guidelines.
Correct.
Yep. So they won't call it
by Congress. Actually,
yeah,
there's an act of Congress that controls this. I actually looked into it myself just in case the topic would come up.
I think, doesn't John Oliver have a whole special on cheerleading?
I think so. Yeah.
And just please go watch that. Just go watch the thing on cheerleading.
And
you're
going to
be like,
look into it, a show I used to watch called Leverage. They actually do an episode of cheerleading. So I went and looked up to see how factual the information that they were using, and it's 100%. There's an act of Congress that actually says cheerleading isn't a sport.
Yeah.
Because it would have to be regulated a certain way.
Yeah, and there's so many of these companies that have this like brand in cheering.
Yes.
So like just this one in particular, I can't remember, but like there's so much money behind this industry, and there's so much risk.
And,
like it's such a it's more dangerous than football.
And these girls are, I mean, they are athletes.
Yes, they are.
I've seen some of the stuff they do. Wow.
Yeah, that is
They would make me look silly.
Yeah, to say that that's not a sport it's
just a name only. But just a name only.
But then to turn around too, and when you think about it, not just the stuff that you think about the stuff they do, but then think about the stuff they do. You're taking 15, 16, you know, even younger. You're taking kids from middle school and having them go out there in.
Why are they dressed like that?
Yeah, why are they dressed like
not
this?
Quite sure what the.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of high school kids that are standing out in front of a football game in front of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people.
Why? What? Hold on. What? Just this bothers me. Why are we dressing kids like this?
Yeah. Why are we sexualizing?
And then we turn around and say no, kids are off limits. We can't. But then you dress them like that. I don't. What is the? Oh,
and then on top of that, not only do you dress them like that, which turned around. And they turn around and they sexualize them, but then they turn around and on top of that, you know, you have cheerleaders who are now some of the more popular kids in school, if not the most popular kids in school.
Yeah, because it's definitely a glamorized thing. It's you know, it's
so now
it's all about
you're training these other kids who might not have the highest self-esteem to turn around and feel they have something that they have to do. They have to get to that. It's the Barbie mentality where, you know, they're slowly trying to phase out these unrealistic guidelines
And, you know,
of
there
people.
there was a large girl on our cheerleading team, but even if you're a large girl and you make the cheerleading team, people are still gonna snicker and make fun of you. Like,
I can tell you when I was in school,
if you don't fit that mold,
it wasn't. If you were large, you were not a cheerleader. You
Band
were
front.
color guard or
Okay,
band
so
front.
yeah,
Yeah,
color
you
guard,
were spinning a flag. That was you. You spun a flag. You were the people who walked out in front of them, and then the other ones came out and shook their ass.
Yeah, and I want to know if they could actually do the moves themselves. Those larger girls. I bet you they could.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet you, but you know what? They weren't picked.
Yeah,
Because they didn't fit a mold. They didn't fit a guideline, a subjective guideline.
well, of course, there's the token big girl. They got to do what they got to at least have one. So
I don't recall one in our school.
Well,
but...
you were in a less politically correct time.
Oh, you think?
But I mean, I remember there was a large girl, and you know, looking back, that took a lot of balls on her part to do that, because you know,
the ridicule.
When all the cheerleaders will go out there and she's out there, you know, everybody's like, hey, look at the fat one, and it's like, man, kids just suck.
Yeah,
kids suck.
But that brings us about full circle to the fact of, I bet you she's a better person today, because don't get me wrong, she went through that, but she went for a goal that she wanted. She got it. She took ridicule for it. She built character.
And she knows what it's like to be on that side.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably a beautiful girl now. I don't know. I haven't looked her up, but it's just,
you know, she built character for the fact of you know, you take that, you know, when we safe space these kids and they aren't able to, because there are schools out there who go, well, she's a little large, so she might get made fun of, so she probably shouldn't go out for cheerleading because we don't want her to be made fun of. Now you're sitting there and you're curbing children's goals, because what if that's what she wanted to do? What if that's what mom did, and she not that mom's pushing her that way, but she wants to do it because she heard the stories mom had, and she wants to do that. She wants to follow in the footsteps and do these type of things, but then the school's stepping in and saying, we probably shouldn't allow her to do that because she's going to get made fun of and be ridiculed.
Well, it's 9/11. Well, 9/12, but I like to say 9/11. So let's bring this home.
Yeah. Final thought over here to Bill.
Don't the school districts have to look at what's going on. Educational, sports, use their head. Don't use the money. Don't follow the money. They have to use their head. See what's better for the kids. You know what I want to see on a school board? I want to see kids on a school board. I want to see kids, somebody to say, hey, listen, this works, this doesn't work. Yep. Okay? Have some input from the people who you're trying to affect. You currently don't have that.
Yeah. Okay, my final thought is homeschool your fucking kids. Don't send them to the man to learn their shit. And I know homeschooling is a motherfucker. You still got to try to get your kids to pass the same tests and all that shit. But along with homeschooling, there's got to be a balance of schooling and socialization. That's one thing that public school is really good at, is socializing your kids. Well, socializing? Yeah, socializing your kids. Well, if you have a kid that just goes to homeschool and they don't go, I mean, sometimes it has good benefits, and some, you know, shielding them from that whole, you know, the whole cliquey, you know, aspect, and, you know, kids are fucking assholes, you know, but you kind of need a balance there. So homeschool your kids and try to,
if at all possible.
Yeah, and try to at least in your spare time impart some of your own knowledge and wisdom on them, so that they can, you know, learn how to make their own decisions and
not to jump on you right there. Be active. Be active in what your kid's learning.
Yes.
Your kid comes home and says, "This is it."
And honestly, I'm not a parent. It's wrong, I'm not a parent. You guys are parents. I'm not a parent.
You know, your kid comes home and says, "We learned this." If it's wrong, tell them. It's wrong.
Yeah, make them challenge them. Not only don't send your kids to school to be challenged and think that that's going to be enough. Challenge your kids as much as possible so they learn inside the home and outside the home. But with my final thought of the night is, let's get away from this labeling, the labeling of kids of being either special or special needs or college prep or, you know, all of that. Let's get away from that. Let's understand that these kids are coming, they're forced into this situation regardless. You know, if you don't send your kid to school, you don't have them homeschooled, there are consequences at the you know, the legal level. So understand that that's something that they're going to have to do. But before you send your kid into what is basically just a free-for-all, educate them on the fact that yes, bullying is going to happen.
People are going to offer your kids drugs.
Yeah. Understand the fact that there are things that they're not going to learn in school, that it is on you, that you got to teach them. But also, you know, instill in them the fact that what they want to do, what their drive is, no matter who tells them differently, if they want to do it, that is their choice and their goal to have. And don't let people stand in their way. Don't sit there and allow a school or people to say that your child isn't good enough or can't do it, because you know what? All that's going to do is it's going to stunt them later on in life. You support your children and you support what you can. And honestly, don't set up these stupid fucking safe spaces for your children, because all you're doing is just ruining them for later on in life. Because I can tell you right now, if I had gone to school and it was just full of these safe spaces and kids weren't allowed to be kids and all of this, and we were told that you couldn't do this because you weren't smart enough or you weren't pretty enough or you weren't healthy enough or all of this, our generation would be more fucked than what it is. So let's curve it back. Let's take it back and let's educate our kids in the home and make sure that we support them in everything that they want to do. But on that note, guys, that's going to be the end of our show.
I just want to add one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Kids, if anybody ever offers you drugs, make sure you tell them thank you, because drugs are very expensive.
They cost a lot of money. But anyways, guys, also Wednesday nights, I want you to go ahead and tune in on lrn.fm on either your webpage browser or off of the Google Play Store or iTunes Store, and check me out on Cop Block Radio every Wednesday night at 10:06 Eastern Standard Time, along with Severin Freeman of Lehigh Valley Cop Block. Also, don't forget to tune in next week, either here on Facebook or over on YouTube. Or also check us out at questionyourperception.org or on the Google Play Store or iTunes Store to get episodes you either missed or listen to it in a whole new way. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. All of you, you're the reason why we do it. If there is something you want us to talk about next week, or drop one of us a line,
or ideas to improve the show. If you have subjects that, you know, just anything that you wanted, that you think that, you know, we could improve on, just let us know.
But absolutely, we do this for you guys. So if there's a topic that you think we should be discussing, let us know, because that's what we will try to incorporate in. Until next week, guys, stay safe, and we will see you then.
Have a good night.
I'm Scott Marshall. Goodbye.
I'm Matt Taylor.
I'm Bill Godin.